Hey, this is Tom, and over the years, Warren Buffett has contributed countless quotes that are being used by investors every single day. Most of it he actually said, some of it is completely fabricated and has nothing to do with him. But one of the most quintessential Warren Buffett quotes that kind of summarize the whole investing theory, thesis, whatever you want to call it, in one sentence is that when everybody else is greedy, I am fearful. And when everybody else is fearful, I am greedy. This is a core principle of investing that goes all the way back to the 1920s, even before, even centuries before. It's all about supply and demand. It has nothing to do with the stock market. When everybody's piling into something, the price goes up. It skyrockets. It becomes irrational, exuberant, right? And when nobody wants to buy something and there's a lot of supply, well, it's a buyer's market, right? The same principle works in the stock market. And yet somehow, when it has to do with housing or cars or commodities, people understand these principles. But when they get to the stock market, they completely lose that logic and everything becomes emotional. I've never had so many people talk to me about starting investing than I had over the past few months. People that have never been in the stock market now want in. People who quit investing back in 2022, sometimes even 2008, sometimes even 2000, want to get back in the market. The high prices, the action, all of this exuberance is drawing people in. The thing is, when you look at professional investors, they know that when the market goes into a hype cycle, which is absolutely normal and part of investing and happens every few years, this would be probably the most precarious time to be an investor. But for most retail investors, especially inexperienced investors, and there's nothing wrong with being inexperienced, with inexperienced investors, they tend to have a blind spot. In a bullish market like we have right now, they're hyper-focused on the opportunities. They're hyper-focused on all the great things that a stock can do, that the stock market can do on the economy, and they absolutely lose track of the risks. And when the market goes bearish, like we had in 2022, they absolutely ignore all the opportunities and the great things that can happen if things align correctly, and they become hyper-focused in risk and they stay away. That is why, despite the fact that the stock market goes up over the long haul, we have never had a negative 20-year period in the S&P 500. In fact, 95% of decades are positive in the S&P 500. In fact, 75% of years are positive in the stock market. For every 5 years of a bull run, we have about 10 months of a bear market. Even though that is the case, if you look through stats, you'll find out that 90% of retail investors lose money in the stock market. And you have to be kind of talented to lose money in a market that only goes up. That would be the common sense and the common logic, but it is wrong because it's unfair to judge people on that. When you're up against mainstream media that's absolutely polluting the airways, not in order to screw you over, but because they're looking for attention. So when things are good, they're hyping it up for attention. When things are bad, they're amplifying that for attention. When you have professional investors and people with access to information that you don't have, some of it legal, some of it potentially borderline on the gray area, when they have better resources, better connection, better networking, way more capital than you, they can survive a lot longer. So as you're shortening your time horizon in the stock market, you're playing the game at which you cannot win. So think about it like sports, right? If you are up against a team that's a high-scoring team, you want to slow down the game, right? This is exactly what we're talking about here. Retail investors can only win in a slow game against the pros, against algorithmic trading, against all the institutional investors. If we slow down the game, they lose their advantage. All the access to info, all the influence from the media, all the contacts, none of this matters on a 10, 15, 20-year period because after you go 10 years plus, the only thing that matters is fundamentals. Eventually, fundamentals always beat hype and noise. That is why I always say long-term investor is the best strategy and the best cure to what's going on in the market, especially right now. So right now, we're in the midst of a hype cycle. So across social media, across mainstream media, everybody's talking about how this is going to continue forever, how this is just the beginning, this is the first inning. And look, I don't know, right? Nobody knows when this exuberance ends. Like for example, late 90s, I think 97, Ellen Greenspan, I think, came out and said this is irrational exuberance, essentially saying that the market is overhyped and is due for a correction. And It took 2.5 more years after he said that for the market to actually crash. So he was off by 2.5 years. So if Alan Greenspan can't time the market, I certainly can't, and you certainly can't. So number one, I think as a long-term investor, somebody who's trying to learn the game and you want to be successful at it for the next 20 years, the first principle you have to do is just let go of the timing the market stuff. I just want to explain something here. It doesn't really matter who's right, the bears or the bulls. You have people saying, well, this is just the beginning for stocks like Palantir and Tesla and Nvidia. Maybe they're right. You have people who are saying, oh, it's about to crash, the P ratios, it's a absolutely exuberant, hype fuel, FOMO. Maybe they're right. It doesn't matter. Okay? The only thing you need to be looking at as a new investor who's trying to learn the game is focusing on fundamentals. Okay? Waiting for a crash is not very efficient. Peter Lynch once said that more money was lost waiting for a crash than crashes themselves. And he's right. So what you should do if you're trying to learn the game, if you're new to this, and when I say new, if you join the stock market after 2023 and beyond, you are a new novice and experienced investor. You may think that you're the next Warren Buffett. You may think that you have done well, but you've been essentially playing the game on very, very easy mode. If this is a video game, this is the lowest setting. Basically, you can't miss. This ain't the real market. And when the real market comes, it's going to expose who's been swimming naked. And it's a lot of people going to get exposed, okay? So what I want you to do right now is understand that this is not a good representation of what the market is. You're essentially going through what I call the Dunning-Kruger effect if you're new to the market. You've been in the market a little bit. You basically rode a hype cycle, a bull cycle, whatever you want to call it, for the past 2.5 years, and you think you have it figured out. You understand investing, but you don't. When the bad time comes, if you're not ready, if you're not prepared, you're going to be absolutely annihilated. And being prepared means a few things, which is something I always talk to my students about the academy. Number one, it means that you have to have a system and a plan to what to do exactly when the market corrects, depending on the amount of correction. So you need to have a plan for every single scenario without trying to guess which one will happen. Number two is having the capital to do that. You have to be strategic about it. Number three, having the right portfolio so that the stocks you're holding are more able to sustain the pressure that this market, when it corrects, is going to bring with it. Number 4 or 5, I lost track, is your mental and emotional status. You have to be prepped mentally and emotionally so that when this happens, you're in the right headspace to make smart decisions. Think about it like if you're trying to lose weight, right? Would you not sleep, pull an all-nighter, have a few drinks, and then as you're tired, lethargic, and in a completely bad state of mind and haven't eaten all day, go hang out outside the pizza place at 1 a.m., right? You're not setting yourself up to make a good decision in that situation, right? So you also have to be setting yourself up to make smart decisions when the time comes, which means surrounding yourself with people who understand the situation, who are like-minded, long-term investors, can hold your hand. Some of them a little bit more experienced, some of them less. But a smart community like this is super important as well. So you have to bring all of this together, tie it up with an important strategy like the DCA strategy, where you constantly invest and never stop and use the downturns to make more money, which is exactly what we did in 2022. In 2022, when everybody was running away from the market and getting out, thinking this is the end of the world, we were loading up on Palantir and Tesla and the S&P 500 because we understand that buying quality at times where the supply is insane, that demand doesn't exist, is the only way to make money in the stock market big time. And lo and behold, now we're reaping the benefits. But it didn't happen today or yesterday or at least not for a few more years. So a lot of people right now in the market, they're saying, oh, I missed Palantir, I missed Tesla, I missed Nvidia, and you're trying to catch up. And that's a huge mistake. Don't try to catch up. Don't try to win back money you didn't earn. Like all this bullshit is really, really a bad mindset. Forget about it. Don't try to catch anybody. Your only goal is not to lose money, number one. And number two, make sure you secure your financial future for the next 20 years. Whether you're 20, 40, or 60, the strategy is the same. You want to secure your financial future. Of course, when you're in 60 and 20, you're probably going to have to use different routes to get there. But the principle is the same. Don't lose money, secure a financial future. It's not about dopamine. It's not about trading. It's not about posting cool things you've done on social media and posting screenshots from your brokerage when the stock is up for the day or for the week. It doesn't matter. It's about strategy, a game plan, a community, mindset, and emotions. That's all. Now, as always, I invite you to become a member of our academy, where all of these things are staples in the education I provide to my students. I have over 25,000 students right now, and this is exactly what we're going to do. We'll give you a community. We'll essentially hold your hand when things become really tough to handle alone. We'll show you the roadmap. We'll give you the education. We'll give you the articles. We'll give you the lectures. You can have access to me to ask me questions. And eventually, once you go through the system, you'll see that you come out a completely different investor, long-term oriented, tough as nails, and completely impossible to move by noise and bullshit like most retail investors are. So, as always, patreon.com/Tom Nash. Would love to see you there. I hope everybody has a beautiful Sunday, and I'll see you next time. Bye.